Welcome back, everyone. Well, there is an issue in our society that a lot of people don't want to talk about, and other people don't realize how pervasive it is. We had a great interview a while back, and recently my guest was a featured interview inside our program called Her Look. This is Maggie Fronk. Welcome back, Maggie.
Thank you for having me.
And Maggie, we've got a name change in the organization, but let me give you the other name. Domestic Violence Rape Crisis Services of Saratoga County, which is now known as Wellspring.
Absolutely, as of yesterday.
As of yesterday. I want to talk about a lot of different things here, but let's start with why the name change, Mag.
The name change is because we are always going to continue doing the same services we have to help people who are in need, but we need to get ahead of this issue. We need to do more prevention, more early intervention, and more working with our community to end relationship and sexual abuse. And that name is about wellness and doing that.
I got you. Did you find with the other name that people might be put off by it or think, oh, I don't want to go there, it's too clinical, or I'm overexposed?
And I think one of the things that we saw is people used to wait till they were in an absolute crisis situation to come for help.
Yes,
we
right.
want them to come much earlier when they're just feeling that things are uncomfortable, to explore that so that they can come in and they don't get to that crisis.
Right. You said before we went on air, Maggie, you used your hand. I don't know if you even know if you did it. We want them to talk to us when you feel it here, you said. And all of us know what that feels like. Rape crisis is a little easier to understand. Domestic violence can take on many forms, and it's not, you could be any age, you could be any income level, you could be any race, and all of a sudden you find yourself in that uncomfortable situation, and you're going to be available to these people to talk to. But let's talk about it, because, you know, immediately I think of the poster with the black eye. So you think domestic violence is physical. But let's talk about some of the other ones, which in some ways, as you were saying, can be much more devastating.
Absolutely, and I often will use the term relationship abuse,
Right.
because when people do think of violence, they think of that physical. But there's psychological control and emotional control, social isolation, financial control, sexual abuse. And the underpinnings of those are all power and control being used in that relationship.
Right, so I think just in terms of giving our viewers a sense, if you feel that you're being manipulated, if you feel you're being isolated, if you feel someone has that power and control over you, that's not healthy.
That's not. That's absolutely right. And that's when to come and get help, or just explore that with someone.
Right, all right, so if you're out there, you know someone, by the way, you might be feeling these things yourself, you can call the center. Anonymous, confidential, in terms
And
of,
free.
and
No
free.
charge for services.
That's correct. Tell us a bit about the staff at Wellspring.
We have a staff of 15 and also 100 volunteers who help us with our mission. And the staff have many different roles. We have counselors, we have case managers who help with those basic needs. A lot of people don't leave the situation because they're afraid, how could I put a roof over the head and food on the table for my family if I left? We have a housing program. We have legal advocates who will help people to understand how the justice system can avail them of protections and help them with that, help them petition the courts. We have prevention educators because we want to end this. We want to get there so that no one becomes abused. So we are in the schools and in the community talking prevention also.
You know what, I want to cycle back on something.
Yeah.
Housing.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what services you provide. You know, someone might believe that their only recourse is to escape. You know, and if they do escape, where are they going to go?
Okay.
What's going to happen?
Great question. In the immediate, we have an emergency shelter. It's a domestic violence shelter, and it's a confidential, safe location. So that's the first step. Sometimes for someone who absolutely needs to flee and get out, that's where they might go first. Where after that? We help them to figure out what their plan is, and if need be, provide them support. I talked about a housing program. It can be hard. I don't have any money. My abuser has financially controlled me. I don't even have a job. How can I make ends meet? So we have services that help with the rent, as well as provide support services in the home to help that family get on their feet and independent and stay safe.
You know what, that sounds so central to the power and control issue. If someone has power over you or control over you, you're relying on them. So all of a sudden that dependency becomes part of that manipulation. And you need to escape from that. You know, Maggie just mentions it as though it's just a matter of day to day, but these services are free, and as such, and with a lot of volunteers and everything else, but there are real needs for funding.
Absolutely, absolutely. We rely very much on grant funding, but we also could not do this work without the generous support of our community through local grants, through individual donors who give to our agency because they believe in a community that where no one lives in fear at home.
The Bartenders Ball.
That's coming up.
One of the great events here in Saratoga, and you're one of the recipients of the funds that are raised for that.
Yes, we are very grateful to have been the recipient. It has supported our shelter and helping families to be safe. So save the date, we'll see you in February there, and it's a good time out.
Well, that is definitely a good time. You know, and I often thought when I talked to some of the people at Gaffney's right next door here about, because they're very involved with the Bartenders Ball, and I thought to myself, and I don't know, this is probably a little off target here, but bartenders see so much.
Yes.
You know, they see people coming in when they're troubled, or they're happy, or they're loose and they're fun, but they also see the other side of it too. So I'm not surprised that they select that, your organization, as one that they'd like to focus on to help raise some funds.
Yeah, and the Hospitality Committee has supported healthy families in Saratoga for so long through Bartenders Ball.
I got it. I want to go back on one thing. Prevention, very, very important. So much, you really have to rely on getting people to try to come to you when they get that pit in their stomach. Try to come to you before it's escalated, because when it does get escalated, it affects the children. And then the children grow up, you know, not all that dissimilar to parents who are alcoholics. It's pervasive. It then travels. So that child then might become an abusive adult or an abused adult, correct?
That can happen, yes.
So
absolutely.
the prevention thing is key here.
Sure.
Boy, Maggie, you're doing such a wonderful job. Again, I mentioned that Maggie's interviewed in Her Look, more long-form interview, and it's very, very insightful, so please look for that. And we'll have you back anytime you want to come on, help us
Take you up on that.
Raise awareness for the very worthwhile things that you're doing. Again, the organization that you might have known as Domestic Violence Rape Crisis Services of Saratoga County is now known as Wellspring. Easy to remember and easy to get to, correct?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for coming in, Maggie.
Thank you for helping us to raise awareness.
Oh, you're quite welcome. To see this interview again, head to our website, looktvonline.com.